Hi, I'm Carl Topilow with the National Repertory Orchestra, and it's my pleasure to be with Isabel Trautwein, who played in the NRO in the 90s in Breckenridge or Keystone?
I think it was 1994 and 95 in Breckenridge.
Right, exactly. So tell us about what you did since then and what you're doing now, Isabel.
Well, I've been a member of the Cleveland Orchestra for the last 19 years, believe it or not, since
Wow.
2001.
Wow.
And before that, I was a member of the St. Louis Symphony and also the Houston Symphonies. And I subbed in the Chicago Symphony and played in some string quartets, but then arrived here. And I must say, those 2 summers at NRO in Breckenridge were truly formative to my pathway since.
Okay, well, tell me what was so special about the experience and anything else you might remember about those days.
Oh my gosh, I had never played so much orchestra in a short time. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but I think in 8 weeks we must have played 16 full programs or more.
That sounds
It
about
was
right.
constant. And I also was allowed both summers to play a concerto with the orchestra, the Brahms and the Beethoven concerto, which adding that to all the orchestral work just became a flurry of activity. I had never worked so hard, and I'm definitely a hard worker, but I'd never worked so intensely with colleagues, also with my stand partner. It was a first real experience being a team with someone next to me, really joined together like that for a longer period of time. Truly, in retrospect, a real hint of what the professional world would bring in terms of intensity, repertoire learning, getting along with others, and then somehow balancing, your physical well-being. I remember just saying, I'm going to go for a hike. I'm in Colorado. I'm going for a hike and just finding the time. I think we hiked Grays and Torreys once, a
Mm.
very memorable day. And it was important, a very important sort of life work balance experience for me. What a privilege you gave me the opportunity to play Heldenleben, Scheherazade, Capriccio. I think even Brahms won. And then I remember Scheherazade was the week after Brahms concerto, so, so I was really busy. But it was beautiful. The first stand of the cellos that summer were Alan Harrell and Brian Thornton. They're
Right.
both my dear colleagues now in our orchestra. And we talk about NRO, and, we somehow still found time to play frisbee outside. We did quite a bit of frisbee throwing too, and I had rollerblades, I remember, back
Wow.
when that was in
Yeah,
style.
one of our
So
concertmasters a few years ago played Chanson Poème on Wednesday and Heldenleben Thursday. So that was the life of the NRO musician.
Oh, and I remember then one day someone said, "Well, we're playing Schindler's List next week. Do you want to look at the music?" And I thought, "Oh, movie music." And then it was a solo violin part. I just learned it in a couple days, and
Yeah,
it was a beautiful concert playing
for
with you
sure.
conducting and me as a German American playing Schindler's List. It was very meaningful. You have a high level orchestra that attracts the best of the best, and you're able to offer it tuition free, which for me at that point in my life was crucial. I
Mm.
simply didn't have the money to spend on tuition. I was, not at I was in graduate school. It's not what your parents are eagerly looking to finance you through the summer. So you have basically an older crowd of very motivated people that really want to get out and start their careers, and you're able to do it tuition free, which I think is a tremendous plus for NRO.
Well, tell me about some of the other non-orchestra experiences, because I think one of the things about playing at a section, even a great orchestra like Cleveland, you have other musical activities really to accompany that role.
It's true. It's at NRO that summer. I learned the importance of getting to know board members. I remember there were some very generous and wonderful people. Their last names were, it was John Kern and his
Right.
wife. They had a wonderful home, and they invited musicians on weekends, and we would play. I remember playing Schubert Octet there with a really cool group of people, Ben Freimuth, who ended up in San Francisco on the bass clarinet, and others. And it was important to form friendships with board members and to let them know how grateful we are for the opportunities we were given, and to share, dinners, or the opportunity to go to their homes. It was I would say that's something I've taken deeply into my heart as a musician in this 21st century, that relationships between the musicians in our communities that make it possible for us to do what we do, that those relationships need to be fostered and really respected and taken care of. I learned that at NRO.
I know you also had the taco orchestra for many years.
The awesome children's orchestra. That was another little community effort to gather children and professionals in equal numbers. And your daughter Emily played in
Yes,
our
you
ranks,
did.
remember? That was a lot of fun.
And you play chamber music with colleagues and teach also?
I do. I've been for 15 years. I've run a chamber music series here for the Heights Arts Galleries, which is a Cleveland nonprofit that's grassroots, serving the arts. And we do 4 concerts a year in eclectic venues, and it's another way to connect to the community, especially here in
Sure.
Cleveland.
No, I think it's important, from what I can tell, for section string players to do more musically than play in just orchestra. I think, seems to me, that the string players need other musical outlets to satisfy their own musical soul, let's say.
Right, you have to imagine a dog sled. We're always hooked up when we're at the orchestra. We're hooked up to something very rigorous. We're really connected. The minutest motions we make are connected to all of our colleagues if you want to play at a high level. But those, if you think, and I love dogs, I have one right here. If you think of those dogs, they also need to be out just jumping around and sniffing the things they want to sniff. You need to do that in order to stay healthy. And I think we section players, especially, we need to keep our chops going for the more solo colors that we might not be welcome to use, or wanted. People don't want to hear all of our cool sliding around when we're in this section. So
Probably
you
not.
you have to take care of
Good
your,
for you. Great.
all the sides if you're playing
Good.
that.
Well, thank you so much, Isabel, for sharing some time with us and recounting your NRO experiences. And for me, it's very rewarding to know how we've touched people and maybe made some small difference in their lives.
Carl, one more thing I want to add real quick is Daniel Heim, who was principal violist that summer
Right.
and was a very good friend. He's now at Heights High leading the orchestra programs and all the musical programs.
Right.
And that certainly benefits.
And plays in the Cleveland Pops Orchestra.
Ah, yes. So there are hundreds more children and youth and people affected by the work of another NRO alum.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you so much for being with me and for sharing your experiences.
Happy
Okay.
to be here. Thank you.